According to a new report by Positive Technologies, healthcare company web applications experience more than 1,500 attacks per day. For Tech Republic and ZDNet, I'm Dan Patterson with Tech Republic's Brandon Villarolo. Brandon, these are frightening statistics. What are these attacks and what are the applications being targeted?
Well, it's important to note here because when you hear healthcare web apps, you automatically assume these are your patient portals at your doctor's office, or these are your patient access to these, digital health records. And that's actually not the case primarily. Those are surprisingly hard to crack. SQL injections are definitely the most common form of attack for web apps in general, but in the healthcare industry, it seems like cross-site scripting and attacks like that are actually the most popular form. And those are targeting web apps that don't actually feature patient information, but they're still trusted by consumers. So much like trusted websites that had ransomware uploaded to them, there was a backdoor that hackers knew about for a while, and they just waited for the right time to put a piece of malware in there using cross-site scripting, and then the user is prompted to download something because, hey, there's an update and you got to download this Adobe Flash update. So that's actually what tends to be happening here. It's still absolutely terrifying because we assume that if we're on our hospital or our doctor's website, that the software being given to us by that website is legitimate. So we're more apt to install it, but in this case, it's probably malware.
And what are healthcare companies doing to fend off these attacks?
From what the report says, not a whole lot, because they might not even know about it. This is the sort of thing that web apps aren't seen as a priority security hole. So companies aren't necessarily acknowledging, yes, we've got a problem here, and we need to keep an eye on it. And it's just these are happening and they're slipping in quietly without companies noticing.
What can vendors and consumers do to protect themselves?
Consumers can be sure that they're not downloading anything from any website. If your website says, hey, something like your doctor, if your doctor says, hey, you need an update to something on your computer, here's this software, don't just install it. Call the doctor's office and check. They probably have an IT guy on staff who can say, yeah, our patient portal has a vulnerability and we pushed an update to your computer to make sure nothing gets scripted. But in 99% of cases, you're not going to have to install anything for a web app. It's a web app. So don't install anything, and companies need to be very proactive. The report suggests doing things like installing a web app firewall and keeping an eye on traffic, because those 1,500 attacks that are hitting those websites every day, they produce a lot of traffic, and they're producing a lot of unique IP traffic because they're being hammered on attacks. So keep an eye on your web traffic, install a web app firewall, and install patches for anything you're running as soon as they're available.
Those are terrifying statistics, but also really good advice from Tech Republic's Brandon Villarolo. If you'd like to learn more about what you can do to protect yourself and your company from cross-site scripting and other attacks, make sure you visit Tech Republic, and while you're there, subscribe to our cybersecurity newsletter.